Well, the names the university attaches to the campus landscape makes a powerful statement about the values we embrace, that we wish to hold up for emulation, and that we aspire to pass on to future generations here.
And of course, as the nation's first public institution of higher education, we have a responsibility to promote equal opportunity and equal access for all. To that end, we have to be willing to submit our history and traditions to thoughtful assessment. Meeting that obligation requires an openness to removing names that were attached to campus buildings by prior stewards of the university whose values undercut Carolina's mission.
And as co-chairs of the Commission on History, Race, and a Way Forward, we're very pleased that the Board of Trustees shares that assessment. Well, the story, I think, really begins back in 2015 when the trustees removed the name of William Saunders from the building that's now Carolina Hall. And Saunders, I think as most people know, was leader of the Ku Klux Klan during the era of Reconstruction. At the same time, the trustees also imposed a 16-year moratorium on the removal of additional names. But really from that very moment on, students and staff, faculty, and alumni were insistent that more needed to be done.
And so in February of 2020, the Chancellor appointed the Commission on History, Race, and a Way Forward and charged us with a more comprehensive examination of Carolina's history with race, and with making recommendations on how we as a university must reckon with the past to preserve our future. And so in July of 2020, the Board of Trustees lifted the moratorium, and on the basis of research presented by the Commission, they removed the names of Charles Aycock, Thomas Ruffin Jr., Julian Carr, Josephus Daniels, removed those names from campus buildings.
And I think we should add that the work is ongoing. The Commission has recommended the removal of an additional 10 names, and that recommendation will soon be before the Board of Trustees. As I say, we continue to work on other names memorialized on the campus. I think at this point people are fairly familiar with Charles Aycock's life story and particularly his political story. He was an alumnus of this university, and in 1900, as the gubernatorial candidate, led the Democratic Party's violent white supremacy campaign that culminated in a constitutional amendment, an amendment to the state constitution, that effectively disenfranchised, took the vote away from black men, and established in legal form the regime of Jim Crow. Well, this was not the Commission's work. The recommendation of Professor McClinton's name came from the Chancellor's Standing Advisory Committee on Naming Campus Facilities and Spaces. The Chancellor put out a campus-wide call out to alumni as well for the recommendation of names to replace those of Charles Aycock, Julian Carr, Thomas Ruffin Jr., and Josephus Daniels. The naming committee received several hundred recommendations. I also sit on that committee. We vetted and evaluated them, and Professor McClinton's name was one of several we recommended in our first round to the Chancellor.
And the name of Hortense McClinton certainly stood out among those, and rose to the top, and her name was selected. And just a bit about Ms. McClinton. She overcame the obstacles of a Jim Crow society. She distinguished herself as a pioneer in desegregating the social work profession. And in 1966, she accepted an appointment as the first tenure-track African American professor at the university. And she's just had a remarkable career. She's been lauded nationally for teaching the knowledge and modeling the skills that prepare social work students and social worker practitioners to practice without racial and cultural bias, which is a quote from her. So we're very, very proud to be here talking about this remarkable pioneer in our profession, and just delighted to be here to do that.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that she just an extraordinary role model, an exemplar of the values that are so important to this university at this particular moment in time.
And if I could add, as a Black woman who has had a wonderful career, I'm so grateful for my career at Carolina, I know that it was the pioneering work of Miss McClinton that paved the way, and so many others that came before me. And for her name to be on one of the buildings at this university speaks volumes.
And especially for it to be on a residence hall,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I think so that undergraduate students get to know her.
Absolutely.
And to kind of understand and appreciate what she stood for in the history and in the life of this institution, past and present.
Absolutely.
Well, that really takes us back to where we started and the point we made at the outset about the ways that the names we choose to put on the landscape speak very powerfully to the values of this institution, the values we wish to promote and aspire to fulfill.
This work makes us stronger as a university, and it positions us to build a better future for the people of North Carolina, for the nation and the world.